Hey, thanks for joining me. I've been asked to give some input on the business side of woodworking. My niche and where I work and live and have grown up and have been, ever since basically I was born, I've lived here and seen the community grow tremendously. It's given me an opportunity to really build a business based on that growth. And it's kind of a no-brainer. There's been a lot of companies, however, that have come and gone in this area as well. They just couldn't handle the down market, in 2006, 2008, all the way up to like 2012, right? It was kind of a tough time. If you were able to survive that recession in 2008, you built a good business because it was difficult. Let me first start off by saying that I started out in the late 90s, let's just say that, and I felt like my niche market was going to be furniture making. I realized that furniture wasn't really going to be the right choice for me. I just felt like there was too much competition from the stores to get people to want to spend, high dollar amounts on furniture. So I realized that that wasn't going to be my niche that I wanted to be in. So I changed, and it actually happened quite nicely because I was working as a stockbroker or a financial advisor at a investment firm. And one of my colleagues came to me and asked me, "Can you build something for me for my house?" And I said, "Absolutely. What do you want? What do you want built?" And he said he wanted a big wall unit built for his TV. And I said, "Okay." I hadn't done one before, but I've built lots of things and I love audio, video. So I felt like that was a perfect spot for me. So I ended up building his cabinet, and to this day, they still live in the home, and it's a beautiful cabinet. But it was one of my first jobs that I ever did for a paying customer, not a family member, but somebody that I didn't know. I mean, I knew him, but you know what I mean. But that got my foot in the door because once I did that job, that community that he was living in was brand new. So everybody around him, they were moving into new homes. And as I was installing this job, the day or two it took me to install it, people were coming up to me and asking me for a price to build their cabinet. And I just about died. I said, wow, this is really a niche market. And I thought, you know what? This is something I should really think about. So I did. And long story short, that was 20 years ago. And here we are today. And it's been great. But I will tell you that there have been times when I've thought that I wanted to grow to the point where I had lots of employees and, we're building lots of stuff. But over the years, I've realized that that's not really what I want. And maybe down the road, I will hire some people that can handle the business when I go into retirement. But up until now, or up until then, I should say, I really enjoy doing it myself and I have a passion for it. And that's the difference. If you don't like what you're doing, it's not going to be very good. So let me kind of start off by saying a few things about what I think you should focus on when you're starting this business, and or you've had a business but you want to try to make things a little bit better for yourself. I have a list that I've written down. It's not necessarily in a particular order. It was just how I thought about it. One of the things that I want to point out is that when you start out or you're new, you think you need to take on any job that comes to you. Now, if you do need to put money on, food on your table, you need to put money in your pocket and you need to pay your bills. When you're first starting out, you don't have a lot of options, especially if you have a family. I mean, you have to do what you have to do, right? You need to provide for your family and pay your bills. So take whatever you can get at that point. But understand that there's going to be a point in time where you can decide on what jobs you want to take and what jobs make you happy when you're doing them. Everybody knows there's jobs out there that just don't make you happy, and I would stay away from those. So as you're just starting out, you may not know what those are until you get involved with them. Then you're going to realize, hey man, why in the world was I taking this job for? Because this is just ridiculous. So take my advice, take on the jobs that you want to work on, and don't just take jobs because they pay really well. You need to understand that the customer, the person that's reaching out to you to do work, they might get insulted when you tell them that you aren't going to take on their job. So you have to be very delicate when you tell them that. Okay, the next thing is be punctual. This is simple, right? In life, just be punctual, but in business, it's really, really important. Show up and be on time. And if you're not on time, you got to call them. You call them, you email, you text, whatever you can do to notify that customer or whoever you're meeting that you're not going to be there. You're going to be late, traffic, whatever. Just tell them. I will go to meetings and I will have these conversations with people, and they will tell me, Dave, you are the only person that called me back out of the 10 people we called. And I say, I can't believe that. So this is one of the things you have to do in order to be successful. Does that sound crazy that 1 in 10 call back a customer who's wanting to hire you for a job, and there's so many people that just don't call back, and or maybe they'll call back once, but if there's difficulty there, they won't ever return more than one call, and not show up for appointments as well. So if they make an appointment, they just don't show up. So be punctual and show up to your appointments, and that's simple. I mean, anybody can do that. The next thing is, this is really important because during the recession of 2008, I noticed a lot of companies that were going under. It was left and right. There were tons and tons, and they were all going bye-bye. One of the reasons they were going bye-bye was that they had massive overhead. So if you have a business and it's, let's say it's in your garage, right? And you think to yourself, man, I would love to have a huge shop space. And the market's great, and you really feel yourself growing. The business is nice. You're making a lot of money. Okay, let's get a bigger shop. Okay, you sign up a 3-year lease or 4, or whatever that is that you do, and you're paying, whatever that dollar amount is. Then you get a little bit of a slowdown, and then you start thinking, wow, maybe this wasn't a great idea. It's inevitable that this is going to happen, right? It's not always going to be a phenomenal market. There are going to be times when you're going to question whether or not you can continue. So having that overhead be minimal is very important. Every business is going to be different, right? I get that. In some people's business, they're going to make, millions and millions of dollars. Other people's, they're going to make $30,000 a year, $20,000. It depends on your business. But scale that down, right? If your leverage is to the point where you have to scrape together every cent every month to pay your bills, your overhead, that's not a very comfortable life. And I don't think you should be in that position. But let's say you lease equipment because you want that fancy new sliding table saw that's $30,000, but you've only made 2 jobs. And you can't justify it, but the company's going to give you a loan because, heck, why not, right? What do they have to lose? They're just going to grab the machine as soon as you can't pay the bill. They don't really care about you. So they're going to give you that lease, but your payments are going to be, a couple $100, $300 a month, $400 maybe. And to go with that nice new sliding table saw, you're going to need other equipment too, right? So maybe it's going to be even more than that. Well, guess what's going to happen when you stop paying your bills? Maybe 1 or 2 months. They're going to come take that equipment, and now what? You don't have any equipment to build your stuff with, and now what's going to happen? You don't have any equipment to build your stuff with. How are you going to survive? So now you got to find a way to buy new equipment or use whatever. It's a bad plan. So I would suggest don't lease equipment as you start up, buy equipment. And one of my next things is don't buy new stuff. Try to find used. This is a great time to be buying used equipment. There's a lot of people that are retiring and they just want to sell stuff. They don't necessarily want to try to make the most money. They just want to sell stuff. Don't highly leverage your business and um, stay within your means, right? You'll be happy that you did. You'll be much more comfortable as you work, and you will be less inclined to take those jobs that you don't want because they're going to pay your bill. The headache that jobs can bring if you're not having fun with them, it's not worth it. Okay. Next thing is when you're at a job site or when you're building your cabinets for these people, you're doing the work and you're getting paid for it. What you want to do is you want to think about it this way. There's not a lot of pride in craftsmanship these days, right? Everybody sees it. When you go to job sites, you look and see what kind of shoddy craftsmanship is out there. You want to make sure that whatever work you do is better than you would do for yourself. Just have that mentality. If you do work that you would do in your home, right, to that standard, well, for somebody else, my feeling is that it should be at a higher standard, even because you're doing it for somebody else. They're going to be showing it to everybody they know, and people that walk into their homes, guess what? Who did that? That's the first thing that's going to come out of their mouths when they see a beautiful job. Word of mouth is absolutely number one. And it can go both ways, right? If you have somebody that's saying it's not good, it's going to kill your business. So that negative word of mouth isn't going to help you at all. It's going to kill your business. So when you're doing good work for people and you have pride in what you do, it shows through to the customer. You want to make sure that you do that every time you take a job, which again is why you don't take jobs that you don't like doing. You want to have pride in what you do. If you are on a job and it turns south on you, maybe the customer is turning on you, maybe your vision is not working with the customer's vision. That sometimes can happen, and it's a difficult situation. What you want to do is you just want to rise above it and produce the best product that you can produce and make it work, whatever you can do. The customer isn't going to be happy, right? At the end of the day, if they're not happy, they're most likely never going to be happy. But you can do the best you can do, so at least they can say, okay, yeah, he did the job, he stayed, he completed it, and this is what it looks like. I may not like the design, but at least this is the product and it's good. This is a really big deal. A lot of calls come in from people that have had contractors walk away from the job and they call me. And of course, the first thing I say is, why did the contractor leave the job, right? That doesn't usually happen, but when it does, things go off in my head. Either this customer's a little bit whacked or the contractor was out of his mind or her mind. So these are things you need to ask yourself. But generally speaking, if somebody left the job, it's usually probably a mess over there. So I usually don't even take it. I don't even look at it. Come to the next point. You need to get licensed. So if you don't have license right now, contractor's license, and obviously in the United States, obviously we have to have the contractor's license. And in California, it's a contractor state license board, and I'm sure it's the same in a lot of different states, if not every state. But we have to, basically renew our license every 2 years, right? And it costs us like what, $500 or something, or $450 or whatever. But you have to have that license. Of course, you have to pass the test in order to do it. But this is something that's really important because there's a lot of people out there operating without licenses, and customers don't have to pay those people if the jobs are worth over $600. So if you pay somebody over $600, it's, or perhaps it's actually $500 now, but they don't have to pay you. So if you do a job for somebody, let's say you're building a kitchen for somebody and you don't have a license, but you feel like I've got all the skills to build a kitchen, but you don't actually have a contractor's license to do it, that customer I'll bet you they know this. And guess what? As soon as you leave, you've done work, you've put in lots of the kitchen, they paid you a tiny bit of money. Ah, you've got nothing. You can't go back to them. You have no fight. There's no way that you could argue this because you're not licensed. And people take advantage of this all the time. So do yourself a favor, get a license and understand what that means. It's really important. The next thing is, so when you start out, you think, how should I price my jobs? Well, it's very difficult to answer that question, right? Because where you live, your geographic area is going to really determine whether or not, you can charge a higher dollar amount for a particular job or a lesser. There are parts in our region here. I could drive 30 minutes and be in a different socioeconomic area where their pricing might be a little less. I can drive 30 minutes the other direction and be in the most expensive part of the country. And it really depends on where you are. Now, if you're in those particular areas, you have to ask yourself, what is my pricing going to be? But just remember this. When you start out, you don't have experience, right? You're just starting out, you're new. You really shouldn't be pricing, a job at a level, a seasoned cabinet maker or whatever the business is. You have no business pricing a job at that level. So what I would suggest is try to find out, ask people what they paid for their jobs, your friends, maybe they've had work done. It's really difficult to call a contractor up and say, what did you charge for this job? Or what would you charge if I wanted this done at my house? I suppose you could have somebody come and actually act like you're a customer, but that's pretty low. I would never do that, but I'm sure there's people that have done that. That might seem a little bit, shady, but just to kind of gauge the pricing out there, I would rather ask somebody. Say, you know what, if maybe your parents or your neighbors, there's always people around. You could always ask, have you ever had something done like this in your home? What'd you pay? And then look at the job and see what's what. So that might help you, but it's really difficult. I would say start at the lower end and just kind of gauge the feedback from customers. If somebody's calling you wanting stuff done and you never get a job from it, you're probably pricing yourself out of the market. On the contrary, if you underbid jobs so much, usually that shows that you don't know what you're doing and your bids are out of line. Sometimes customers are thrown off by that too. So if they get 5 bids and yours comes in, 5,000 less than the next one, let's say that, majority of them are coming in, let's say at $10,000, 8, 9, 10,000. Yours comes in at 5. And you don't have a lot of experience. So you don't have a lot of proof of your work. You haven't gotten a lot of, you can't show the customers what you've done. You can't take them on a tour of your jobs to show them and have customers validate what you've done. So these people don't know you from Adam. They'll probably think, okay, some might think, yeah, I'm going to grab that because that's a great deal, right? But then others, the astute people out there understand that's probably not a good bid because they probably are going to ask for more money down the road. And you don't want to be in that situation either. So just try it, see what's what, and work off of that. But it's a difficult thing to do, price your jobs. So this is really important. When you go to an interview, and that's what you're doing, right? You're interviewing the customer and they're interviewing you, a potential customer. When you go to a meeting and you're meeting with these people, they're going to ask you for something to show them what you've done, like work. And you're going to say, oh, okay, I have some pictures or I have nothing. You would be surprised at how many jobs I go to where people have said in the past, years and years, nobody shows their work. That is a sign. If nobody's showing customers their work, why? Either they don't have work or they're ashamed to show it. Most likely they don't have any to show. That's not a good way to get business. So you want to actually get as many pictures as you can of your jobs, even if it's repetitive pictures, but different angles, maybe different elements of the job you want to have shown. You just want people to be able to see, this is my work. And if you don't have a lot of work, you got to be honest with these people. You just tell them, I am just starting out. I do a great job building. I would love to build this for you, but I understand you want to see my work. I can't show you that because there's just not a lot to show. Perhaps when I did the last job, I didn't have a camera that worked. I didn't, who knows what. When I started, it was a long time ago, and I didn't have a lot of cameras. The camera phones were terrible, but I used to bring my big, those called the DSLR type cameras, and with, the big lenses and all that stuff. I would take my own pictures with those. Honestly, some of those pictures didn't come out very well. So I'm not a photographer, certainly. And it's okay that you don't have pictures, but in this case, you can tell the customer, you just got to be upfront and honest with them. You don't want to be dishonest with people and say, oh, I've been doing this for so long, but I just don't carry any pictures because I don't need to, right? I mean, that's not the way to do business. People can read right through that. So don't try that with people. You'll lose trust right away. You should just be honest with people and tell them straight up, I don't have a lot of jobs. I don't have a lot of experience. I'm trying to gain experience. I would love to do this job for you. Let me do this job for you. And perhaps I can do this at a little bit lesser price than some of the other seasoned people out there. And let's see how it goes. I'm going to do my best, and I have a great feeling about this. I would love for you to put your trust in me and let me build this job for you. If they see that you're passionate about what you're doing, you are going to get that job. I mean, unless it's some big job and there's a lot of value in this job, perhaps they're not going to put that trust in you. But if it's a small job, I don't see why they wouldn't try it. This is important for every business, right? How do you gain leads? Well, the easiest way to do it is to, with the internet, obviously, to do a website. Now, a website can be good and it can be bad. If you don't have anything to put on the website, it's going to be tough to gain traction with that, like pictures and all that stuff. You can do websites with stock photos, but everybody's going to see that and they know it's a stock photo. It's not really going to be that great, but it might be able to help you. In doing this type of work, people want to see that product that you produce, not a stock photo. So if you have a stock photo, they're just going to say, did you build this? And if you say no, well, why is it on your website like you did build it? Do you see what I'm saying? This is the issue. So be upfront again. The thing is that you can't really utilize a website to grow this type of business in my experience. However, once you start getting more and more work that you can show, then absolutely. I mean, you can start a website and just don't let that be your only way of trying to get business. The next thing I would tell you is that I think this is probably the easiest way to do it, is to take out an advertisement in a local magazine or something. That's the way I started. It was word of mouth, and it was a simple ad that I placed in a magazine. That was it. And it was actually a really nice magazine, and it worked out great. Ever since, I can actually remember the very first day I placed the ad in, and we were going to go out to dinner, and my phone rang, and it was from a number that I did not recognize. And that's when you know that something's happening. When you get calls on your phone that, not solicitors, these are actual people that are calling you because of your business. They're not a number that you recognize. How cool is that? And when your phone starts to ring, oh my God, what a feeling. So take out an ad and try to put in, whatever information you can on it, right? Obviously that's important. You need to have something to attract somebody to call you. But when you have that advertisement, it's really important to continue with it. Don't just have it for 1 week or 1 month or whatever it is. If it's a monthly, periodical, like what I did was every month. So every month it was in for up until just now. Just now I decided that I didn't need this magazine anymore. I had it going and even the editor was like, man, I can't believe that we're seeing you go. And I told her that, and I really appreciate what they did for my business because they actually allowed me to um, run this ad. They gave me an incredible price. They made it super simple for me. Obviously, I was a great customer for them because they didn't have to do much. I gave them some pictures, we created the ad, but I let them have full autonomy on what they actually ran. So the advertisements were whatever they put in, I agreed to, but then we just changed it out every now and again. But it was a very simple, and it was hardly anything for them to do. Every month I just approved it via the internet, and it just went out. So I changed it about a year ago to every other month, and I still was like, man, I don't think I need this any longer. So I changed it from every other month to pausing it permanently just recently. So I figured that now is the time. But so that's been going for, give or take 18 years, okay? 19 years, something like that. Now here's another thing. You're supposed to be able to do work for people legally if it's under that $500 mark in California. But if you do work for people, which everybody's doing without a license, I know it's kind of illegal, right? We talked about that. But at the same time, you're supposed to have experience. And here's the kicker. When you actually apply for your license, they're going to want to know what jobs you've done, what your experience is, right? You have to have like 3 years experience. And you need to show proof of the jobs, which means you need to show proof of your expenses on the job, what the job cost. Give me a description of the job. So they want to know everything, the balance sheet of the job. How do you provide that information when you're not supposed to be doing jobs for people? So it's kind of a catch-22, right? You're actually admitting that you're doing this work illegally, but yet you have to do this in order to get a license. Unless you've been working for somebody maybe you've had a job as an apprentice in a shop, and that's different. They would probably sign off saying that you worked for them. But again, most people in my situation, I didn't work for anybody, so I started out all by myself, and that was it. But keep that in mind when you apply. You have to show proof. After you start getting your first calls from doing your marketing, you need to make sure that you don't overextend yourself right away. Let's say that you get a bunch of calls and you're taking on all these jobs, and you tell people, hey, I can do this job in a week. Okay, so do that job, and it better be done in a week. If you tell people a time frame, like a week or 2 weeks, it better be done in that time frame. Instead of giving them a definitive time frame, it's better to say an approximation, and it's better to say much longer than you feel. And then ask them, is it okay if I do this sooner? Will that be okay? Because some people have to save the money if they don't already have it, right? So you have to understand that if you say you're going to be done in 4 weeks and you're done in a week, and they don't have the money right now, that could be an issue. So you want to always make sure that you have that ability to get the job done quicker, and that makes them feel better. But don't tell people that you can get a job done in a week or 2 and it take longer. So immediately that's going to kill your reputation. So it's amazing how fast that can happen. Now, we've actually just went through a terrible pandemic, right? We're still going through it. Things have slowed down. I mean, as far as materials and being able to get into homes because people are sick, or, you're sick, whatever. Things have slowed down, and it's delayed jobs. Every single job right now, I tell people that they better, hang on and understand that if I tell them, 12 weeks for a job, that's saying I hope to get to this within 12 weeks, and understand that there's been times in this past year that it's been more like 5 months to get jobs done. So you can understand how many jobs that if you tell people a week or 2 weeks and it takes you, 4 or 5 to do, you're going to back up so fast, and that's going to be a real problem. Their anticipation and their expectation level is going to be way lessened if you tell them up front when to expect something, and be a little bit, getting jobs done for people is different than, is a little harder than getting jobs done for yourself. Let's say you've been building in your home, but doing something for somebody in their home is different. You have to understand that part of it. So if you could do it in your own home in a week, plan on it taking longer for somebody else. Because again, you want to make sure that you're doing it at a higher level, because you want to make sure it's done really well. And just have pride in what you're doing, right? I think that I've touched on most of the aspects that I feel are really important. There are others, the financial part of it, the bookkeeping part of jobs, and doing, being your own boss. Having a business, obviously, there are things you need to understand and know. But I would encourage anybody who's looking to start this business to just go on the IRS website and look up, small business stuff. I mean, small business administration also is helpful. Try to get as much knowledge as you can, and just go out there and do it. I think that's going to be one of the things you just need to focus on, and is actually just doing it and taking that plunge. It's difficult. It's not easy. Hours can be very long, but it's worth it. Having your own business and building a business is actually very rewarding. Financially, you'll have a lot of time to be able to decide what to do with it, right? Maybe you want to take your kids to school, or you want to pick them up from school. So you can plan things around that. A lot of careers, you can't do that. So when you have your own job, when you have your own business, you have the ability to do that. And that is really a nice thing, especially in this last year, right? This pandemic, because kids have been off of school. It has been really weird. So being able to modify your schedule, right? Your work schedule. So sometimes maybe you're working later at night, but you spent time with the kids or the family during the day when they were home from school. That's really important. Doing stuff like that to grow your business is what you have to do. It's really important to kind of keep that mindset that you need to be in this for the long haul. So try to plan accordingly. Don't leverage yourself out of the market, and just keep a positive attitude. That's keep a passion for your work. If you find that you don't like what you do anymore, maybe it's not the right thing for you to do. The great thing about being a business owner is that you can change what you do. You can modify it. So I really appreciate you taking the time to listen to this. And there's been several people that have asked me to do this. And I actually think it was a really good request, because I think it gets people thinking about it. And it's not always the glamour of, having your own business and, oh, it's going to be great. It's going to be successful. I'm going to make so much money. There's so much more to it than that. Just understand that there's probably things that I didn't discuss. I mean, I know there is, right? There's tons of stuff. But if you want anything more specific, just ask me, and I would love to talk in the comments about it, and we can discuss it. But I really appreciate you taking the time, and thank you so much.